Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. The path to Armageddon. Before we get into it, just want to mention Patreon. If you'd like to support the work of Astral Club, you can do so on Patreon. When you join, you get advanced episodes, commercial free on Sunday, a library of downloaded episodes for your podcast app, and a Patreon email where we can talk back and forth. And if you're interested, you'll find a link in the description. Next up, private lessons. If you'd like a lesson with me to learn how to astral project, all you have to do is go to the description and send me an email asking for information. Okay, this is a very sobering topic. These are not my favorite types of episodes to do, but I feel I owe it to the people who listen to Astral Club to give them the information that I receive. You can accept it or discard it as you see fit. You're all intelligent people. But I'm not going to hold back for fear of spreading negativity or the wrong type of emotion. I mean, there are channels out there that do nothing but talk about fairies and light and all the rest of that, and that's fine. But if we're going to be talking about dealing with the reality of this world as well as the astral, let's be honest, it's not all goodness and light. We find ourselves now at a crossroads, and I hope we're still at a crossroads. About 2 years ago, I had an experience that I shared with everyone here. It was called an Astral Vision of WW3. And I'm going to put a link to that episode in the description in case you haven't listened to it yet. It was a very compelling experience for me, and it was unlike anything that I've ever experienced, that I ever did experience before or since. Normally if I'm going to astral project, I astral project and I go where I want to go and do whatever I want to do and come back and maybe make some scrawled notes or something. But this was, or sometimes my angel guide will show up every now and again and take me on, some sort of a trip or a visit or some sort of a task. But this was something that had never happened before. As soon as I left my body, I felt myself being carried away in a whirlwind. And I could sense that there was this power that was taking me somewhere, and I had zero chance of escaping it. It never even occurred to me to even try because I sensed the raw power of this entity. And I couldn't read anything telepathically. All I got was sheer power, and I felt sheer respect for this entity. It was the kind of entity that you just sensed that there was no questioning, there was only listening and witnessing whatever it is it's trying to show you. So that's what I did. When I found myself, once I got out of the whirlwind, the entity showed me a plain below, and it said, "Behold the plain of Megiddo. This is the place of the final battle." And I looked below me, and below this mountain, it wasn't huge, it was a mount, and there was an old destroyed city there. Around it, though, was this plain, and it was teeming with, if you're far enough up, it looked like insects, but I realized that below me, there was an enormous military camp of a size that I had never seen or even dreamed of. And as I was thinking this, once again it said, "Behold, there are 1,000,000 soldiers gathered here to destroy Israel." And the breath, The air was knocked out of my lungs, even though I didn't have lungs at that point in time. And all I could think of to say is, can I go down to the ground? I want to witness this for myself. So I was allowed to go down to the ground, and I walked unseen amongst these soldiers. And in my mind, I heard again from that voice, this is the future that may be. Fear this future, for it is filled with fire and blood. And as I walked through this enormous camp, I sensed the thoughts of people from Russia, from China, from all of the Arab nations, many people from Africa, all there as part of this enormous army that was meant to completely blot out the country of Israel. And Israel stood on the precipice of complete destruction. In this vision, I was taken up again into the sky. And just as I had finished ascending back to the point in the sky that I had been previously, an enormous fireball rose up from the plane, followed by another one and another one. And it just boiled away the flesh from all of these soldiers. And this enormous cry went up as all of those soldiers below experienced that pure moment of pain and terror right before they passed on. There was nothing but fire and destruction and just complete devastation. The emotion generated from this was horrific. I still recall that feeling to this day, even though it was over 2 years ago now. When I saw and I heard about the terrorist organization that attacked the country of Israel, there was a lump in my throat. I had a strong sense, an awful sense of deja vu. And it scared the hell out of me. It still does. When I was astral projecting just last night, I went to my angel guide because I felt I had to go. And he met me in the conference room, which we often meet one another. And I could see the serious look on his face, but also the sadness in his face. He told me that we've started down, your planet has started down, your race has started down a dark path. It still isn't too late, but many of the alternate futures which led to a more peaceful environment have now been sheared away. There are so many roads right now that lead to World War III and the final battle on the plains of Megiddo. So I asked my angel, I said, is there something that we can do? Is there something that I can do? Anything, even the smallest thing, to perhaps steer us away from this frightening path. If I was looking for reassurance, I didn't really get it from him. But he did say that there is always hope, of course, and that I am leading, speaking, my angel, that he's leading a force of other powerful entities, and I was welcome to join, and that they were going to scan what's the best way to put this? Maybe ribbons of reality. Picture a ribbon that's been cut and shredded into many, 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 many different, strands. And that each one of them is sparking off into a slightly different direction or a major league direction. So our job was to pursue these ribbons, and the ones that had that are the most filled with pain and death and war, that we try to pray and send the best energies possible that we can with all of our strength down that timeline to see if we can influence what's going on right now in the Middle East. The next thing that I knew, I was flying very fast through a level of the astral plane that was somewhat rarefied. It's higher up there. I had followed my angel to that level, and I could sense around me. I couldn't see them. I could only see my angel, but I could sense around me there was many other powerful entities. And we were flying along, and it reminded me a lot of when I time travel, because I fly along, I go faster and faster in the sky, and then I aim my will for a particular time. And if I do it right, then the sky parts, and I have this strand or this tunnel to follow to take me to where I wish to go. So this was a very similar type of approach. And I remember hitting the first string, and I followed it along, and it was like getting glimpses of things that would happen, only they're being played very fast, very fast. And then I started zooming in on the emotions surrounding it. And I sensed darker and darker and darker, and imagine awful sooty clouds over the Middle East with war and hatred. And I knew I didn't like this particular time frame, so I started, praying and started sending good energies into that time frame, doing my best to dispel some of the darkness. I don't know how successful I was, but eventually I did the best I could for that strand, and I went on to another one. I was hoping that this one would be one of the good ones that would lead to a more peaceful environment, and no, it was not one of those. It was actually worse. And I followed that one along, and war had spread throughout the entire world. All the armies of the world had mobilized, and brother was set against brother. I can't help but get biblical when I talk about these kinds of things, because it engenders that type of emotion in me. And so this was another reality that I tried to send down great energies to try to dispel, what was going on. And I sensed the other beings around me doing the same thing. And I'm sure they were doing a much better job than I was. But I was doing the best that I could, using all the energies that I had available at my command. And I was already starting to feel tired, because maybe there are immortal beings of energy, and maybe so am I. But right now, I don't really have that, eternal plug-in somewhere that maybe they do. I'm still a being who's got to run a physical body, and so I think my energy reservoir isn't quite as full as theirs was. But I went ahead, and when that one was done, I went ahead and picked a third one. And in this one, it was marginally better. There was still a lot of death and hatred, but it didn't seem to me like World War III had kicked off. And so I tried to send as much great energy down this one as possible, and try to send the idea that this is the reality that we want, or at least, one of the ones that are better than the other two that I saw. So that was the last reality that I had a chance really to fly down and to try to work with, because at the end of that third energy usage to try to put positive energy down there, I started getting extremely tired, and I could feel myself losing focus. I know all of us, in one form or another, are doing our best to try to absorb what's going on in the Middle East, and to try to do whatever we can to promote some level of peace. One thing we have to be careful of is there is no shortage of people wanting to use the Code of Hammurabi, which is the eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. If you want to play that game in the Middle East, you'll have to go back thousands of years. Probably right on back to Abraham and Isaac and Esau and all the rest of it. So playing that game of, well, you did this to me, well, I did that to you, or you did this to me, and okay, so I did that to you in a reply. Well, because you did that, I'm going to do this. Committing atrocities purposefully, especially against women and children and babies, is never acceptable under any circumstances. It's just not acceptable. I don't care what you think someone has done to you. There's nothing that anyone can do to you that gives you a license to murder, commit awful offenses that some people might think are worse than murder, kidnapping, taking hostages, all of that. It's unacceptable. If you think you can solve a problem through attack and through ending large groups of people, if you think that is a way to lead to peace and prosperity, it's not. All it leads to is action reaction. So I don't know what the terrorist group originally thought they were going to accomplish. I mean, did they think that they would just go kill a bunch of people and civilians? And I'm not going to get into all the other stuff. I couldn't say it on YouTube anyway. Did they think then that, oh, okay, then they'll, Israel just shake hands with them and they'll give them whatever they want and it'll be all over? I mean, if they thought that, then that's not what they're going to get. That's not what they're getting right now. If you sow the wind, you have to be ready to reap the whirlwind. Never start a war that you're not prepared to finish. Ask the Japanese, ask the Germans in World War II. They started wars that they weren't prepared to finish. And what happened was awful. That's why you don't start wars. Yes, you may have claims, complaints, what have you. But, take a look at Russia, for instance. They wanted to stop other nations, including Ukraine and what have you, from joining NATO. And all they did by their invasion was to cause Finland and Sweden to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. And I'm sure that once things are over, Ukraine's going to want to do the same thing. So here you have a leader of a country who figures, well, I'm going to invade and I'm going to stop this whole expansion of NATO. And all they did through their violence was to encourage not only new members of NATO, but to revitalize an alliance that, quite frankly, had started kind of just rotting away because it had all been based, the whole NATO had been based on the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact. And when the Soviet Union fell and the Warsaw Pact fell apart, and all these other countries who used to be in the Warsaw Pact started joining NATO, After a while, NATO started saying, well, we're this alliance, but there's really no clear enemy anymore. And if you have an alliance with no clear enemy, that alliance is going to weaken and eventually fall apart because the raison d'etre of the organization has disappeared. So, the application of violence in the form of war is something that you should be very careful about, because when you apply that particular form of persuasion, you can never be 100% certain of exactly what's going to happen as a result. I still have hope because I saw at least one strand that didn't lead to the apocalypse, to Armageddon. And I'm hanging my hat on that one because heaven knows I put all the energy I had left into trying to make that one a reality, at least as compared to the other two. Believe me, you didn't want those other two. Okay, well, listen, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, hit the like button, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you haven't already. Questions and comments. What do you think about the situation? Do you think it's going to lead to WW3? Do you think it's going to blow over in a little bit? I'm very interested in your thoughts on the matter. What do you think some of these countries should do who are currently fighting? Do you have a way out of this? Hey, we're all open to ideas here and suggestions. But at any rate, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.